Pokemon Nuzlocke. We've all heard of them, but in case you haven't, this is essentially a challenge run in which players are limited in how many Pokemon they can catch as well as functioning with permadeath when a Pokemon dies. Truly a fun challenge. Hello everybody, hi, my name is Myloe and today I will be playing the Bloodborne Nuzlocke. First of all, let's establish the set of rules I'll be working with. Firstly, the most crucial part of a Nuzlocke is permadeath. Every time I die, the weapon I have equipped will be lost for the rest of the run. Number 2, I can only use weapons I pick up off the ground. The reason I'm doing this is to somewhat mimic the limited amount of Pokemon you can catch in regular Nuzlocke. I also thought it would be a good idea in general, as I don't want to give myself all sorts of opportunities to die in a Nuzlocke. Third rule, I will not be summoning any of the old hunters or online players for the run. I felt like this is pretty standard, but I also wanted to bring it up with the fact that I will be facing all optional bosses as well. I think that about covers it, so let's begin. I quickly chose an old woman character I had saved to my favorites, naming her Nuzlocke. We spawn without a weapon in our hands, so fists is our first default weapon of choice. There really isn't much danger of dying here before our first lantern. I took out the werewolf, sprinted past the other enemies, and as soon as I got to the Hunter's Dream, I had a choice to make. Here in the Hunter's Dream, we basically get to choose our starter Pokemon from these 3 weapons, and as much as I'd like to wager my success on the Saw Cleaver, that might make this a pretty boring video. The Saw Cleaver is widely regarded as the easiest weapon to use when playing through this game, and I feel like for the spirit of a challenge, I'll go with my personal least favorite of the 3, the Threaded Cane. In the first area, things were going smoothly. The whip form of the Threaded Cane really made it easy to fight through crowds, so much of this starting area didn't have a chance to phase me. And after exploring every nook and cranny within Yharnam, we finally come across our first weapon pickup with no real close calls so far. Now I've collected the Saw Spear, so things are looking pretty good. From here I took out the Cleric Beast pretty easily, followed shortly by Father Gascoigne. There were a couple close calls here, but nothing crazy. I will say, while I like to play through everything up to Gascoigne without leveling up in a casual playthrough, I wasn't doing that in this run. I definitely put about 5 levels straight into skill before fighting the bosses. Moving on, I wanted to fight the Blood-Starved Beast. This fight is optional, and every time I play through Bloodborne, there's a good chance it'll serve as a roadblock for about 1 to 3 deaths. But this time, I felt prepared. That is, until I died running away from the Railgun Hunter. Yeah, this was a little demoralizing. I considered restarting the run here, but of course, this is the pain I'm meant to feel while doing a challenge like this, so I continued pushing onward with the Saw Spear. This Saw Spear is another reason I wasn't going to pick the Saw Cleaver at the start of the run. The untransformed moveset is practically the same as the Saw Cleaver, with the main difference being the transformed attacks. I didn't want to lose my Threaded Cane so early, but the Saw Spear at least had me in decent hands. So I made my way down to the Blood-Starved Beast and without summoning the old hunter, walked into the old cathedral to battle. And it actually went really well. There was a moment near the end where I didn't quite choose the perfect window to use an antidote, nearly costing me my life, but I did get away without dying. I ran over the whole area the cathedral ward opens up, and even took out these 2 hunters lurking at the bottom of the stairs. And with all of these levels, I thought it might be the perfect time just to hop into the Grand Cathedral and face Vicar Amelia. The thing about going into this fight was, I hadn't found any other weapons so far. Going into this run, I hadn't really wanted to have a death at this point yet, but here we are. While I was stressed about this boss fight, I actually ran through it really quickly thanks to some leftover fire paper I prepared with for the Blood-Starved Beast. On top of that, I also quickly ran through the Witches of Hemwick area, one-shotting that boss with usual ease. But now we've got to make our way into the Forbidden Forest. This entire area is really large and has many winding paths, but if you've gotten as good as I have with searching every corner of this place, you get rewarded with so much loot. I picked up a ton of blood shards and twin blood shards, which could come in handy should we need to level up more weapons, as well as almost 100k in souls. Coming up in the very pit of the Forbidden Forest, we have our fight with the Shadows of Yharnam. This fight is another one that technically isn't very hard, but has given me a lot of trouble many times in the past. If I don't play it just right, it can serve as a gatekeeping fight for me almost more often than not. But luckily this time, the Saw Spear carried me through and I headed further towards Byrgenwerth. It was around this point though that I decided the Saw Spear has been used enough. I know Nuzlocks are all about going as far as possible, but this weapon is very much like the Saw Cleaver I tried to avoid at the start, so I think this is where we can make our switch. But this wasn't a random decision either. See, if I get myself killed to this tall fellow with the bag, he actually transports me to another place when I wake up. And within this area is the Tonitrus. The Tonitrus is a smooth metal mace which has the power to electrocute at will. A pretty sweet weapon to be sure, but it comes at the cost of low durability. It is, however, a weapon that would counter our next boss's weakness. So we lose the Saw Cleaver, get transported by Bagman to our new location, and with our fists as our only weapon of choice, we snatch up the Tonitrus. I also happen to lose my fists as a weapon here by dying. Not ideal in the case that we might need to sacrifice a weapon like this again in the future, but at least we didn't lose anything very important. And not only was I now equipped with a great weapon, I also realized the Rifle Spear is a weapon you can pick up that I had completely missed at this point. I ran back to Old Yharnam to collect it, and now we were 2 weapons ahead of losing this run. With that being said, I moved in to fight Rom the Vacuous Spider. This fight went perfectly according to plan, and I took him out quickly. However, due to my stats being primarily skill focused, the next area, Yargul, wasn't going to be very easy with the Tonitrus. But after a lot of struggle, I did make it to the one reborn without dying. But this fight wouldn't go very smoothly for me. See, the whole beginning is ritualistic. You just kill these 6 mages and then you're good, but the whole time you gotta fight this massive arms and legs, you're getting hit by his arms and legs, and like I mentioned earlier, I didn't really have the strength stat to make this a quick fight. And while I was doing well for quite some time, I did eventually get hit by his full body explosion move, and it rid me of my Tonitrus. Thankfully though, I hadn't used any bloodstone chunks on it, but now with the rifle spear being my final weapon, I'd have to do it to that one. After doing so, I even equipped it with 2 strong physical attack up gems and rapid poison. With a huge rifle spear, I had high hopes. I knew the only reason I lost last time was because of the one attack, so this time I was sure to be more careful. I cleared the mages just fine, and when I began attacking the boss, I realized the rifle spear was doing much more damage than the Tonitrus beforehand. Maybe the Tonitrus was a bit of a throw in the long run. But with my boosted damage, I was cutting through the one reborn, when suddenly he started charging his powerful explosion once again. I was in the middle of an attack when this happened, and once I had rolled out, it was already too late. My final Nuzlocke weapon had been taken from me, and I'd lost the challenge. But this is only the first attempt I've had. Honestly, I didn't realize before setting up this rule set how little you find other weapons lying around the world without buying them, but that really made everything a little more stressful actually, and I like that. But what do you think about the Bloodborne Nuzlocke? Could you make it through the game and the DLC fighting every optional boss with limited lives and weapons? Or perhaps you'd like to see me take another stab at this with other strategies I've come up since then? Let me know in the comments down below and I'll be sure to read them. As for now, my name is Myloe, and I'm out.